The name Zoetrope comes from ancient Greek words meaning wheel of life, possibly because the drawings inside come to life when it spins. While work on what would become the Zoetrope started in 1933, it wasn't until the 1860s that Brown University student William E. Lincoln perfected the design and submitted it to board game manufacturers Milton Bradley. By looking through the slits at the rapidly spinning still images, your brain perceives them together as movement. The effect is very similar to the flipbook, which was invented hot on the heels of the Zoetrope, but with one major advantage. When you get to the end of a flipbook, the images stop abruptly, while the Zoetrope's images continue in an endless loop. In the late 1800s, photography had progressed to include exposure times, or the amount of time needed to capture an image of the subject, as short as 1 second. Still cameras, or a timed series of still cameras, were now able to capture multiple images in a short amount of time. Called chronophotography, this series of still images, when mounted in sequence inside a zoetrope, were one of the direct precursors of motion pictures. Starting in the 1980s, linear zoetropes, long walls with art panels set behind slits, have been used in subways around the world for advertising and for art. When viewed from the moving subway trains, the still images appear to move and transform. Zoetropes have also appeared in art installations, movies, TV shows, music videos, video games, and advertisements in the last 20 years, as you can see from this Wikipedia list. We're going to start by cutting out all 3 of our animation strips. Now we want to make sure that we only cut on the outside lines and not the individual squares. If you want, you can number these 1, 2, and 3 so you know which order they go in. Because there are a lot of Zoetrope strips that you can download and print from the internet, I am going to show you how I arrived at the measurements for our black strip. What I did is I took one of my animation strips and placed it at the bottom, and then I measured the same height again, and then I added a 1/2 inch or 1 centimeter at the very top. So your black strip, if you are making a custom one, should be 2 of your animation strips high plus a 1/2 inch. These animation strips are 2 inches, so our strips will be 4.5 inches tall. So once you have your lines drawn, you need to cut along them. So you have 2 long, skinny strips of black. The skinniest strip, that is less than 4.5 inches, you can put to the side to use with any other craft project you may have. Take your glue stick and just put a line of glue along one short end of your paper, and overlapping that little bit for the line of glue, turn your 2 strips into 1. Now, I don't need quite this much length, but I do need most of it. So what I'm going to do is I have cut out all of my strips and numbered them lightly in pencil so that it doesn't bleed through, and I'm going to put the tail of one on the tab of the other so that they line up in one long row. And this is the length that we will need our black strip to be. So a little glue stick there, and a little glue stick on there. And you can use white glue or even tape, although I don't know if I would recommend using tape because it would reflect light and be a little shiny. So what I am going to do is take one end of my black paper, line up the very end of my animation strip, and I'm just going to go across. I'm only twisting mine around so that you can see it on the film. So I would go across and using my ruler as a straight edge, I'm just going to hold it right on the very edge and make a line. And now I'm going to pull it back to the tab and make another line, just like that, because I can make myself a little tab. And it doesn't have to be, as exact as this tab is. We're just notching the corners so that when you glue, you don't end up with it has obvious a seam. Snip off my end, and I have another scrap piece for my future projects bin. Find the middle of each cell. So each square is a cell. And you want to find the middle of it and just draw a tiny little mark. Now these cells are approximately, they're pretty much 2 1/16 of an inch. If you just want to call it 2 and draw your mark at 1 inch, that will work. You can do it at 1 1/16 of an inch, or you could eyeball it. There is a little bit of play that you can put in this system. I'm just going to go across, and every single cell right up at the very top on my black paper, I'm going to put a little mark. I have made all of my marks so that they reach the top of my strip. So I am going to take away my animation strip, and I am going to use my ruler just to give myself a base, a bottom line. Alright, now I'm going to measure down 1/2 inch from the top and draw another line completely across. Alright, so I should now have a 2-inch section, another 2-inch section, and a 1/2 inch section. I am going to, in my case, flip my ruler over so that I get to the millimeter side. And I am going to, on each of my little dots for the center of my cells, I'm going to measure out a strip that is 2 millimeters wide. I believe for this particular piece, 3 millimeters might be a little bit better, but that is something that you can adjust once you try it for yourself. So I'm just lining up the 1 centimeter line on my little dash, and 1 millimeter less and 1 millimeter more. Hold on. It helps to make sure that your pencil is super sharp for this point. Pun not intended. And now I'm just going to come to my next one. And 1 centimeter or millimeter and 1 millimeter. And just do that for all of them. Now that you've marked out your 2 millimeters, you just fill in the line from your 1/2 inch mark down to the top of your cell. So you will end up with a tiny little piece to cut out. Alright, so now that we have all of our slits drawn, and you can see how small they really are, we are going to cut out just the little slits. Alright, so with your cutting board in place, very carefully cut out each strip. Now you can do all of your cutting and then pull it out, but I wanted to show you that is what we are removing. So that we have little slits that we'll be able to view our animation through. And it is possible to do this with a box knife if that is what you have. You might even be able to do it with scissors. I just think because it is such a thin, small amount, the knife gives you a little bit more control. Okay, so I've got everything cut. I'm just gonna pop them out. And I find for the shorter ends, sometimes if you miss like a corner, it's literally just pull. You will have a piece of cardboard with a circle. You're going to want to cut out the circle. Now, if your circle's a little wonky, that's okay, it will still work. But the nicer the circle that you cut, the nicer it will look in your finished product. I'm going to take my black strip, cut my little notches in it. I'm going to put glue along my tab. And then bring the end of my strip around and lining it up carefully so you can see that all of my lines are matching. I'm just going to make myself a loop that will fit nicely on my cardboard circle. It should go right around the edges. I'm going to put that to the side to dry for a moment. And this is where the fidget spinner comes into play. So with the fidget spinner, take a loop of Scotch tape, fold it around so that you have a loop with the sticky side out, and put it on one of the little prongs of the fidget spinner, and then repeat 2 more times. Now your piece may or may not have this nice hole in the dead center. Probably will, because it is very useful. Flipping over your fidget spinner, you want to place the middle right on the hole in your cardboard, because that will help you get your fidget spinner nice and centered. So now your fidget spinner is taped to your cardboard and your cardboard will spin. Take your circle of black construction paper, line it up around the edge of your cardboard, and just using strips of tape, tape it in place. So I can put a little piece of tape here and then loop it around to my cardboard. And you can put the fidget spinner on after you tape if that would make it easier for you. So you don't need to go completely nuts with the tape. You just need to get enough that your circle will stay a circle. And if you hold it, balance your cardboard and hold the paper, that gives you a free hand to line up and tape. Alright, so my circle is just a little bit wonky. So now I'm going to do the same glue stick maneuver that I did to my black construction paper. I'm going to put some glue stick on my tab and fold it around so that I make a loop with all of my animation cells on the inside. And then you can place your animation into your black circle, and it should fit fairly well. Okay, my construction is a little bit wobbly. Another way you can do this if you don't ever plan on changing out your animation strip is before you make any of your loops, you can glue your animation strip to your black strip. That would be absolutely fine. Now, the motion that you're going to use when you actually view your animation is like this. You're just going to go like that. And look through the slits.